So with our handsome Mr. Z, ready, sir? I wanted to warm up and do a little bit of practice with our leave-its. So for a lot of the babes, remember, leave-its should be things that are always off limits is how I like to work them. If you like it to do it a little bit different, you can. Just remember that if at one point the leave-it is a no-no item, something they're not supposed to play with, and then in a few moments later it does become the item they're allowed to have, I feel that sometimes they can second guess themselves and go for things that you had already said not to go and play with, and they go ahead and do so. So I like to always think of leave-its as dangerous, off limits, things that we want to ignore and disengage from and don't go put our mouths on or play with. If you ever wanted to do a wait behavior and then call your puppy or release them and go grab the thing, the chew, the food item, whatever it might be, then that's where I apply my wait behavior and then release them and go do that thing. So with the leave-its, we don't want to sound overwhelming or scary, because then you may be just teaching your puppy that at times when there's things of value that you become sometimes overwhelming and terrifying and or spooky. So if we become really noisy to deter them from a behavior, that might mean that we always need to get loud and sort of spooky, but it might also ruin your rapport with your babe. So when leave-its are being practiced, I'd recommend to use your everyday nonchalant voice. And if they don't respond again to the leave-it the first time because they don't either understand the concept or haven't worked it as much, is to then use their name or a secondary cue to regain that focus. So it could be name recognition, could be, for example, a kissy noise, trying to get their focus back on you. So I have a few trash items. I do recommend to start this off on leash so you can help your babe. He's like, lady, I'm ready. So what I like to do is, if let's say I'm doing this all by my lonesome, I set up my puppy with a couple little find it items off to the side, and then I plant my no items off in the distance. So now right here, he's like, yes, that sounds amazing. So Zeus, ready? Well, I wasn't quite ready, but thank you. He's like, no, I was ready. So if your babes go into it with a little bit of excitement, ready, Zeusy? Yes. So I like to start them off is in the beginning, if this is really hard for them, make sure there's enough distance between them and the item. So I plopped out some tissues. I plopped out some, there's a little plastic bag with some just old acorns in them that have been kind of tossed around a lot. So they've been broken up and kind of turned into powder. So as I'm going to try, I would go near my item. I'd go ahead and, hey, Abba, my lovey, Abba. Not so much yelling, okay? But thank you. Abba's having a grand old time with her little friend, Winnie. Rennie? But she also gets very excited, which is normal. So right here, we're going to approach the no item. I'm going to go leave it and then feed for that response. If, again, your babe in the very beginning, you saw how he was kind of pulling towards the leave it item, I don't correct or get angry with them if they do make mistakes, because it's not going to make them want to try any harder for me later. So make sure that even if they are making hiccups happen, it's more than likely because they don't understand the process or what we're working on at the moment. So I'm going to, again, try to bring him near the item. So there's my leave it. So I go leave it. And if, let's say right there, yes. So I only let him get close enough where he shows interest. If your leave-its consists of your puppy, ready, do you see? If your puppies are constantly able to go and swipe the leave-it, nice. Then what happens there is your puppy starts to think that leave-its might be check it out with your mouth first and see if it is appealing. But then in the same process, they're getting in the habit of always grabbing the no item. And then they might play keep away, which is where, again, they grab the item and start running with it. Nice. So right here, we're just practicing a little bit of loose leash walking, even while we're walking by some of the leave it items. Again, I'm going to try to go near the item right here. Nice, good job. So what I might end up doing too is I might move them so they're in front of the camera. So that way it's a little bit easier to see what I'm up to as well. So I'm going to toss a couple little snacks just to keep them busy. And then I'll grab some of my items, plop them off to the front here. Nice. And he's just doing his little find it. So again, the reason I just toss out the find it in between the practice is I want him to be able to go do something else while I'm replanting the leave it items out on the floor. So now again, here's my no item. We might go leave it, yes, and feed for that. So this way it might be a little easier to see him as we're practicing. Hey, Abba, can we calm down just a little bit, my lovey? She says, today we're going to be a wild woman. Nice. Ready? So I'm going to try, ready, Zeusy, to keep him on the same side as the item so you can see a little bit better. So here's my leave it item. We might go leave it. Yes. And if my puppy didn't respond to the leave it, we may again in the beginning just create distance by, by moving out of range. And then that would be enough to sometimes for some of the puppies to regain their focus back on you. So again, here's my no-no item. Nice. If he does a great job passing by, doesn't seem to mind it or care, we're going to feed him for that ignoring of the thing. Ready? He's doing a lovely job. 2, if you're finding he's starting to not even care about the leave-its, you can start to throw in a few other skills. You can maybe approach the item from a different angle, see how he's feeling with different types of items that are leave-its. If you are working with leave-its, make sure they are an item that is obviously safe or non-toxic. Also something that is not so small, it could be a gulping hazard. Some pups have gotten in the habit of already grabbing for items and trying to swallow them whole. I know I've discussed in some of the previous videos that if you have a bit of a gulper, nice. If you have a bit of a gulper or a puppy that sometimes grabs items and then also runs into the problem with resource guarding, definitely reach out so we can go ahead and start assessing and making sure that what we're doing is helping the situation and not making it worse. So with these leave it items, the fact that now we're going and settling near them is a great option too for Mr. Z to work through, again, the distraction of the environment, my little human, the little pups that are on each side of him, and then also with the leave it items on the floor. Gorgeous. So this is where you could even try to implement, maybe let's say we work a little bit with stay, and you could start to implement, let's say your puppy's working with stay and there's a few distractions. I might see how well he can handle it, but we'll see if he can give this a try. Is while he's working a bit with the stay, I'm going to go ahead and try to make this a little bit harder by grabbing some of my no-no items off the floor and then seeing if I can still do some leave-its while he's working a down stay. So again, right here, he's just hanging out. I'm going to go ahead and just reinforce him for doing a nice job with his stay with no other big distractions yet. Nice. I'm going to try and drop my item. Great, and then feed him for that. So again, you want to slowly build up, again, your duration, your distances, and your distraction level. If Mr. Z found this to be too hard or too difficult, I might go ahead and make this much easier by just simply having this be an item maybe someone else is practicing off in the distance. So my puppy is being reinforced for settling as a distraction's happening on the back burner, even if it's not a leave it item. So right now what I'm pairing is every time I toss the item, I'm also reinforcing him for not moving, but also for holding his position and for technically ignoring the thing. If he showed tons of interest in the leave it, I would go into, again, and tell him leave it and then feed him for the disengagement. But he's doing a nice job just kind of holding the position, so I'm just kind of feeding him for these behaviors for now. He's doing great. Nice job. He says, I don't know if I like those snacks. So let's say your puppy gets up from their position. I didn't put him in necessarily like a downstay for the sake of, again, the position. But ready? Down. He's like, my brain melted. You don't like these ones? We'll take those bad boys away. So if let's say he's having a little bit of a moment where he's a little bit tired, we might lower him to the ground, help him be successful, and now reapply maybe the stay. I know he tends to also like his target mat. This doesn't mean your puppy can't work stays just anywhere. So if let's say he's ever struggling, bring it back to the step where he was successful. So if we found in the beginning he was doing much better, let's say without the leave it items being introduced while they were kind of working with the distraction of that visual, you might bring it back to a few steps prior, which might have been his just beautiful little down stay as he's rocking it without the visual leave it items on the floor. This is beautiful, but he's doing such a good job. So I'll plop some of these no-no items off to the side. But remember that if throughout the day your gorgeous guys or gals are getting in the habit of grabbing for items that are off limits, and then they're either working on chewing on them or being chased around the house for them, or they're just getting confused, remember that a lot of items that we have deemed are off limits are very similar to the toys or chews the dogs do have. So for a lot of pups, the little lamb chop toy, which is kind of fleecy and sort of fuzzy, can be very similar to like the fleecy fuzzy blanket they might have or dog bed they might have. And if they're youngsters or even sometimes even adult dogs, they can get confused between what might be a toy and what might be an actual, item to leave intact. So he's doing a real nice job with these lovely stays. But I would definitely break it down into puppy-proofed or dog-safe zones where their only option is to keep mastering the skills you'd like them to get good at. And then when they're out and about with you, make sure that you have a bit of a goal. So that way maybe, okay, when they're out and maybe their sibling is off doing something else, they have their leash on and we're working certain behaviors so he can know what to do instead of the behavior that we're not loving, which could be, again, go and bombard your poor older sister. Nice. Gorgeous. So I'll give Mr. Z a little breather. I think he's doing a very nice job. We'll give him a little break. Good job, sir. But splendid job with his leave-its and his stay with the distractions of the leave-it item.